I'm not into that. I'm into the dark, broody dudes. Not my vibe, man. Meh. Ooh, I like this. She should be with a tornado. Lame. Hey guys, what's going on? I hope you're doing well. This week, I'm just gonna do my wrap up for September, which, if I'm being totally honest, it was just very meh, you know, not super great. There was some good stuff and then some stuff that really was bad, actually, now that I think about it. That was my first book. If you already saw my video of A Court of Mist and Fury, then you're gonna get a quick recap of that, okay? Because that was one of the books I read. I read 6 in total, and then I read 2 small little smutty novellas that I will completely spoil, but I will leave to the end for all of those people who like the little weird commentary that I give on that. But I'll go over my books first. Like I mentioned, there's 6. I originally in my TBR video told you I had like 5 books that I'm going to read. I'm just gonna do it. I did do 3, so that's something. I'm normally very, very crappy at doing TBRs, but I did read 3 of them. And those are actually the first 3. So the first book I actually read in September was a total bust, and I wasn't expecting it. It was A Court of Mist and Fury, the second book in the ACOTAR series. I'm just gonna give you a quick synopsis of my feelings because I have that other video. I'll link it down below if you want to hear me kind of go into detail about it. But really what I got out of it is that Sarah J. Maas is just not an author for me. Her style of writing just doesn't fit, and it actually made me angry because I feel like the characters were butchered. I feel like the first book was completely pointless to read at this point. And I think I see what she was trying to do in this book with how the characters were evolving, but she just didn't show that they evolved. She just switched them. So that made me really upset because I felt like my time was wasted when I read ACOTAR. So that was a bummer, but also her writing style is much more like, she has these really long books, like it was over 600 pages, but the good stuff isn't until like the last 100 pages. That's where it actually started being engaging and gripping. The first 500, I was disassociating like the entire time. I don't really remember too much of it. I just remember being mad. I know that's kind of ridiculous, but it just wasn't hitting for me. I don't love Rhysand. I actually really don't like Rhysand. I prefer Tamlin over Rhysand. Who would have known, all right? He's a freaking blonde, a long hair blonde. I'm not into that. I'm into the dark, broody dudes. Rhysand should have been my man, and I'm upset that he's not, but I don't like him. Anyways, the second book that I read, this literally, as soon as I like basically got off the plane, I came home and we started doing a buddy read over on the Hideaway Discord, but we were reading A Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. I think it's by Rebecca F. Massey. That might be wrong. She has a bunch of books, like a bunch of different storylines that totally fit the things that I want to read, whether it's like fairy tales or Sins or Sleepy Hollow, all sorts of stuff that I really want her to be an author for me. But this book was also another one that wasn't hidden. And I feel like I need to at least read one more from her because maybe this is a one-off, I don't know. But all of us kind of thought that this was gonna be spicier. I actually thought it was gonna be more of a why choose based off of the synopsis that I read on Amazon. I definitely thought there was gonna be more heat. It is a spicy romance, but it's, I don't know. I wouldn't characterize it as a slow burn, but it takes a very long time before you get to that stuff. But I hesitate to call it a slow burn because it wasn't quite written in that manner. I don't know. I really don't know how to describe it. But the book itself, like the characters were fun. They were distinct. And there was definitely like ADHD representation. There was some cool sort of like gory bits to it. But then there was a lot of lulls in between. And I felt like the romance could have definitely happened sooner. You thought you would get to it, and then it just doesn't. Overall, the book was just kind of a 2-star for me, and I think most of us, it was kind of just a 2-star, because it really wasn't, I don't know, giving us what we thought we would get based off of the synopsis. It's not quite clickbait, but I don't really feel like, I guess it was an accurate representation. But I do want to read more stuff from her just because she literally has so many books, and she has like the Nutcracker. I actually have that. I'm gonna be reading that at Christmas time. Hopefully it's better. But she has like Nutcracker stuff, fairy tale stuff. She has classic just tales in general, all sorts of things. So I hope this is just a one-off, but That was a 2-star read for me, guys. But the next one, Shadow and Torment. This one I'm excited to talk about. This was the one like I had to get to it because it was an ARC read from like July and it was my first one ever. I feel like such a failure, but I didn't get it done by August, as you can tell, because I'm talking about it now. It's Shadow and Torment by Michaela Whelan. Apologies. But I want to give a quick disclaimer before I actually go into the book. And this is just in a broad sense, not about this book specifically. If you send me a book or if I get an ARC book, whatever it might be, I'm always just gonna give you my honest review, mostly because I don't think I can't. I'm too emotional. I word vomit before I start thinking. So if I don't like something, I'm gonna be straight with you. I respect you as an author. It's a ton of hard work to make a book, but if I'm not jiving, I'm just gonna say it. But if I love it and I wanna shout it from the rooftops, I will also do that. So I just want to let you guys know, I still think you're fantastic. You put all this hard work in. I appreciate you. Just a disclaimer, okay? I don't know. Moving on now. Shadow and Torment. I don't want you to think that this is reflecting that, but Shadow and Torment here. I think overall, I'm going to give it like, I think like a 3.75, somewhere in there. 3.5 feels low. 4 is not, it's not quite a 4 for me. But I do recommend that you check it out. I definitely know some of you, it's really gonna work for you. Mainly because it's definitely a slow burn. And I know a lot of you like more of a slow burn where you even appreciate where the first book doesn't really have anything in it. So maybe check this out. But this book, it's nice because it has the abusive sort of themes in it that's very, very popular right now, but it's not a dark, toxic romance, which I like. You know, you guys know that I'm not into the dark, toxic romance sort of thing. That's just not my vibe, man. But you have the abuse sort of scenario in the beginning, really, that kind of just builds up the character and really gives you an idea of where her mind's at, and then you get to watch her grow from it. So I like that. I thought that was really cool. I appreciated that because I have no problem with the abuse side of things. I just want I don't know, I want to be more believable with the romance. I like ooey gooey guys to gush over, which Azriel is much more like that. So I want to give you a heads up on that. Trigger warnings are definitely in it. Check it out if abuse is definitely going to be something difficult for you to handle. But other than that, once you get into, I'd say once you get out of this abusive sort of space, you go into this other realm. And to me, it was really colorful. The world building was really great. It has this elemental magic quality to it. It's all in a fae realm, by the way, but it has this elemental magic, which the way she describes things, the doors is really what I'm thinking of right now. I pictured it so colorfully, and the world building isn't like, it's not hard to understand, which is great. And then the second half of the book, you're starting to get more into building into that action. She wants to be a part of the people who are saving the slaves. She wants to go find her powers and seek out this dragon, and she's gonna have this big adventure that no one's ever actually survived before. So she's gonna be going through trials. She's definitely gonna be going through some heavy things. I know a lot of you are really, really gonna enjoy it. The spice, again, is not really a spicy book. I'd consider this more of a standard romance. You saw my last video. I am trying to do better about like how I kind of rate things for you. So I would consider this more of a book that's focused on the emotionality within the relationship and focused on the characters growing. There's not really the physical side to it, at least in book 1. Book 2, the spice I think is going to start to build, but I don't think this is ever meant to be a spicy romance. This is definitely a story. Okay, moving on from there. The next one I read was actually one I read with my patronies, and we decided to read Death's Obsession, which that was one I was talking about. You have a girl, Death, he should have taken her. She was in a car crash, but he's so obsessed with her that he doesn't want to take her yet. And he's basically writing her love letters and things like that. It sounded very cute. It also said that it had some steam to it, but it sounded very cute from all the reviews that I had seen. And there's definitely some cute qualities to it, but overall, the book itself was just like really sad, honestly, because she's very depressed, and you can imagine going through a car crash like that, almost dying, losing your sister. That would be a difficult situation to go through, and it's definitely reflected in the book. And I don't think that was my expectation, that it was gonna be that heavy of emotionality within it. Kind of hard to rate for me, enjoyment-wise. I think it's 3 stars, might be less than 3 stars. I think it's in between a 2 and a 3. We'll say 2.5, all right? But I needed some sort of comedic relief with how heavy it was all the different things that were happening, whether it was in her head or what was kind of happening to her, because she's kind of become a shell of herself. So kind of reading that is, I mean, it weighs on you, okay? Death was definitely very neat. I liked how he gave her like love letters and stuff, but there was a little bit of a disconnect between, he seemed very loving in these letters, and then once you do get to the steamy scenes, it's more of like he's a choking, demanding quality. That was a little bit of a disconnect for me. But the book itself wasn't bad. It was well written. The ending was kind of, we were all just kind of like, wait, I don't understand. So there's bonus material you can get if you do want to check it out. It's a pretty short book. I think it's like 170 pages overall. But it was just kind of meh. Like, I'm never going to read it again because it was so heavy in its topic that it was just, I don't know, it weighed me down. Like I said, it weighed me down. But anyways, moving on to the next one. I read Desperate Measures, or I listened to Desperate Measures, I should say, by Katie Robert. This is definitely an erotic romance. So if you haven't seen the last video that I did, erotic is the whole plot is literally focused on sex. So the whole book is essentially sex. That's where the character development is coming out of. And this is the like Disney villain sort of reimaginings, her series by Katie Robert. This is Jafar and Jasmine, which I always loved Aladdin as a kid. I was actually obsessed with Aladdin as a kid. I watched that constantly. And actually I liked Jafar. I don't know why, but I liked Jafar. Anyways, we're getting off topic here, but this one, I'm not a really big like erotic girly. I need a little bit more of like an outside plot beyond the sex. That's what I prefer. I like to have an outside plot, and then I like to have some sex scenes sprinkled within it. You know? And an erotic romance, I think it's just a little too much for me. I start to kind of just like almost get bored during the scenes, and I just want to skip forward to the plot. But if you are really into erotic romance, I think you'd actually really like this series. It does have a storyline in it. Again, the plot is based off of really the sex. The character development is really through the sex. It's a sexual awakening for Jasmine. But there is a plot in it. It has more of a mafia vibe to it. It's much more of like a dom sub situation. He's very domineering. I don't know if I would say he's degrading. There might be like a couple scenes that are, I would say, mildly degrading. You could definitely go harder in that department. But it was good. It was just, I think for me not being an erotic person or like an erotic reader, it's kind of hard for me to rate. I'm giving it 3 stars based off of who I am as a reader. I also listened to it, which might have affected it because the audiobook isn't great. The actor that they have for the guy, there's something about his voice that is just kind of grates on me. And it's not done in tandem like the Make Games, which I know is not standard, but the Make Games ruined me. You guys, when a girl also has to read the guy's part and vice versa, I get so like lost out of it, you know? But yeah, Desperate Measures, 3 stars. I like the idea of taking like Disney villains and whatnot and kind of making them more adult, especially because I'm into villains. I thought I wasn't going to at first, but once I actually read it, I was like, oh, okay. I can get on this bandwagon, so maybe I'll try some more. But I think Katie Roberts just isn't for me because she's more of an erotic author. But anyways, moving on. The last book, I literally finished this on like September 30th. But I listened to this. This was an audiobook. It's called The Briar Crown. One of you actually sent it to me. Thank you so much, Helen. This is Helen Wright Peterson, The Briar Crown. I listened to it on Spotify. She gave me like a Spotify link, which I had no idea that Spotify had books. So I might be a dumbass, but if you didn't know that, now you know. So she's the actual voice actress for the book as well. And I just have to say, Helen, before we get into it, I don't know if it's because I'm an American and you're British and you have a beautiful accent, but the way you were reading, your inflections, your voice, 2 things popped in my head. 1, you'd be amazing to read Pride and Prejudice. I think you would be a phenomenal actress for that. Secondly, I feel like you're Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Like, it's so, I don't know what it is. There's something about your voice and the way that you talk, it just feels like Alice. And I think that's what caused me, when I was reading The Briar Crown, I pictured everything so bright and colorful. There's such a fairy tale quality to this book, you guys. It's not dark. It's like, there's definitely, you know, some situations in it that are a little darker, but it's not like a dark atmosphere. It's very bright, very vivid, and the creatures that are in it, the species, they're all stuff that we're really familiar with, and they just, I don't know, they give you the fairy tale vibes. It was really neat. It was so colorful the way that I pictured everything, because I see things as a movie, and I enjoyed it. So just in that regard alone, I recommend you guys check it out. The audio version, fantastic. But the actual storyline itself was really neat too. I really like the sentence actually on Amazon that it starts with. They say, "Love conquers all, but can the conquered ever love the conqueror?" Okay, I'm sold already at that. And it's done in a way where basically what's on trend right now is you could have that theme of can you love your conqueror, can you love your captor, but it's usually done in much more of a dark romance sort of way. The guy's usually very gruff, very hard, very demanding, where in this situation, it's not. I wouldn't call him a cinnamon roll, but he's a gentleman, if that makes sense. So that was also fun because that was refreshing. But this is such a good, fun story. It definitely has sex on page. It has steam, but this isn't spicy romance, okay? So going back to my previous video where I kind of lay everything out of the different heat in romance, I would consider this a standard fantasy romance. It does have sex on the page, but it naturally flows into it. You know, like the emotionality is definitely in there. We're focused on the emotional relationship of the characters and how they're growing, how they're coming together. But then the scenes that kind of build up into a sex scene, it's much more like a historical where it flows really well. It just doesn't happen suddenly and feel like bonus material. And it's also like the descriptors are softer. You definitely get the imagery, you feel the steam, okay? But it's not usually using harsh words. Like you're not heavily talking about like the fluids or the harsh words, okay? Let me just leave it at that. It's a great book. It was fantastic. There's definitely spots where, like, especially when you get towards the end, I loved where she was going with it. I didn't necessarily see it, like, being obvious as what she was going to do next. So when we get to it, I'd be like, ooh, I like this, and I want to keep reading. I was very engaged. So this is a good story. It's basically a girl she's like, as far as the hierarchy goes, she's like the lowest man on the totem pole as far as her magic. There's these Demavnian people, which have basically plant magic, and then there's humans who are ruling over them because they basically stole their land. It's a whole thing. The book will get into it. The humans are ruling over them, and they're terrible to these people. Obviously, the Demavnians want out of it. And there's a lost princess, by the way, so if Domanov people sounds very much like the Romanovs, like Anastasia, there's kind of a hint of that. There might be a lost princess or something. I don't know. You should check out the book. But anyways, our girl, her magic is basically like she deals with weeds, but she's also a healer. She knows how to use plants to heal people. And the meet cute when she gets to meet the prince is really, really nice. He's actually crying, funnily enough. He's not a weak guy. I don't want you guys to get this impression he's a weak guy, but it's nice that you're seeing like a well-rounded male character. It's not just like this gruff dude, you know? She basically heals him, and then she has to go into his court because he asked her to be his permanent healer. And he wants her people and his people to kind of come together and have a better relationship. He's the second prince though, so he doesn't really have power, but he's trying to influence his father. But the king, his dad, he's a prick. That makes things difficult. But that's how she gets into their court, and she's kind of acting as a spy for the Demavnian people because they see her as an opportunity to kind of get close and take care of the human royalty, if you will. So that's your storyline. It's good. I recommend you read it. But anyways, moving on from there, my last two, these are the little smutty novellas that I read. I only read two, and one was for the Weird Ass Romance Book Club, which we will be having another show October 20th. It will be at 9 p.m. EST again. It's a Friday night. But this month, or September, we read Whorenado, which, look at the cover, okay? I'm totally gonna spoil these, but look at the cover. She should be with a tornado. This was clickbait. Let me tell you that. It was freaking clickbait. It was ridiculous. It's pure smut. It's not campy. As far as smut goes, it's kind of the same thing with erotica. I'm not really into it unless there's like comedic stuff to it. I need it to be short. I need it to be funny. I need it to be ridiculous. And I thought this was gonna be it, man. But it's not. It's literally a bunch of boys who they're in college, but their college is some creepy, very like mad scientist castle. that's on a hill that there's only one path to get to, and they need to let off some steam. So when their like headmaster's gone, they build a tornado machine that can pick up stuff that you want and bring it to you. And their thought is, we're gonna go to the whore school that's like down the hill, basically made for all these chicks that whore themselves out all the time, and they shouldn't, because they should be proper young misses, so they're being reformed, if you will. So they send the tornado down there, and then it brings them back up to the castle. So it's just a taxi service. The tornado's only here for like a couple pages. Lame. And then like the chicks, they're not even really disheveled. I was hoping like maybe they could come in like all contorted and weird. Like make it kooky, you know? Don't have them coming in like just super hot and pretty. They're just in a tornado. Have like some limbs ripped off, man. Come on. But then after that, it proceeds to be all of them banging it out. So that's the book. That's the novella. It was smut. I don't think any of us enjoyed it. I don't even know if I should give it 2 stars, but I don't know. I don't recommend it. Anyways, moving on. That same night, we ended up reading another book because that sucked. And Autumn, she recommended that she saw this book called Seduced by the Pumpkin Spice Latte. This one is definitely camp. If this was serious, that would be weird. Okay, because we mean legitimately a drink, a pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks. But essentially the whole storyline is this girl, she's excited, it's like September 1st, and she goes into Starbucks, she gets in line, and she orders herself a pumpkin spice latte and starts to have feelings, if you will. She's getting the tingles, okay? And the cashier notices that she thinks it's sexy, so she makes a comment like, oh yeah, pumpkin spice lattes, they're so sexy. And our girl is just kind of like, what? Okay. And then when she gets it, apparently, she's at a Starbucks that's not very crowded and has a second story that no one is in. It's just herself. And she goes up there and proceeds to have a moment with her latte. But she's really into pumpkin spice lattes. All right. I was hoping, because I'm just a weirdo, I wanted the latte to become sentient. And all of a sudden, like, it starts talking to her, like the whipped cream or something, like, turns into a face and it's like talking to her. I wanted super camp, but it is campy. But I felt like it could have been crazier. That's all I'm saying. It was okay, wasn't super great. Like I said, September was just kind of a meh month for me, you know? But October, I'm already in it. I've started the Monster Mash readathon, and there's been some grade A stuff. So my October wrap up is bound to be a freak show. Okay, so I can't wait to get to that. But until then, you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll check you out next Friday. Well, you know what? Let's stick with that. I'll check you out, okay? You feel good about yourself. You're great, babe. But I'll see you guys later, right? Bye.